300,000 years, 7 continents, 4 extinct human species, 1 genetic code that connects every single person alive today. This is the entire history of human DNA, from the first Homo sapiens in Africa to the genetic map of the modern world. Every migration, every interbreeding event, every population that rose, fell, mixed, and moved. 300,000 years of evolution compressed into a single story. Let's begin. 300,000 years ago, somewhere in Africa, the first anatomically modern humans appear. They do not look dramatically different from us. They have the same brain size, the same body proportions, but they do not yet have the full suite of behaviors, the art, the complex tools, the symbolic thinking that will later define our species. They share Africa with several other human species, including Homo erectus, who has been there for over 1 million years. Our story begins here, but we are not alone. 200,000 years ago, Homo sapiens begins to diversify within Africa. Different populations spread across the continent, adapting to forests, savannas, deserts, and coastlines. Africa is already the most genetically diverse place on Earth, a fact that remains true today. More genetic variation exists between 2 African populations than between a European and an East Asian. Everything that follows in human genetic history is a subset of Africa's diversity. 100,000 years ago, small groups of Homo sapiens begin exploring beyond Africa. They reach the Levant, modern-day Israel, and Lebanon. But these early forays do not stick. The populations either die out or retreat. Meanwhile, Neanderthals dominate Europe and Western Asia, and Denisovans occupy Eastern Asia. At least 2 other species, Homo floresiensis in Indonesia and Homo luzonensis in the Philippines, are also alive. Earth is a planet of multiple human species. 70,000 years ago, the main event begins. A population of perhaps just a few thousand Homo sapiens leaves Africa, likely crossing the Red Sea into what is now Yemen, or moving through the Sinai into the Levant. This is the out-of-Africa migration that will seed every non-African population on Earth. Every European, Asian, Australian, Native American, and Pacific Islander alive today descends from this small founding group. Almost immediately after leaving Africa, these migrants encounter Neanderthals and they interbreed. The evidence is in your DNA right now. 1 to 4% of every non-African genome is Neanderthal. The interbreeding likely happened in the Middle East, probably in the Levant, roughly 50 to 60,000 years ago. The Neanderthal genes that survive in modern humans today influence your immune system, your skin, your mood, your blood clotting, and at least 47 other traits. 60,000 years ago, the migrating humans settle on the Persian Plateau, the vast highland region of modern-day Iran. A 2024 study published in Nature Communications showed that this plateau served as a hub for humanity for roughly 20,000 years. The population grew, adapted to new diseases, and evolved new blood type variants. From this hub, every subsequent migration into Europe, Asia, and Oceania was launched. Persian Plateau is the genetic center of the non-African world. 58,000 years ago, the first great branch splits off. The ancestors of Aboriginal Australians and Papuans diverge from the ancestors of Europeans and Asians. They head southeast, following the coast through South Asia and island Southeast Asia. Along the way, they encounter Denisovans and interbreed. Aboriginal Australians and Papuans today carry 3 to 5% Denisovan DNA. The Ita Magbukon of the Philippines carry even more, the highest level in the world. 60 to 50,000 years ago, these first explorers reach Sahul, the ancient supercontinent that includes Australia, New Guinea, and Tasmania. They are the first humans to cross open ocean deliberately. They become the oldest continuous civilization on Earth. Genetic tests in 2016 confirmed they have been genetically isolated for over 50,000 years, with internal genetic diversity greater than the difference between Native Americans and Siberians. 45,000 years ago, modern humans enter Europe. They find Neanderthals already there, a species that has thrived in the cold for 300,000 years. For roughly 5,000 years, the two species coexist. Then, around 40,000 years ago, the Neanderthals disappear. Their DNA survives inside us. Their fossils become museum exhibits. The last known Neanderthals hold on in the caves of Gibraltar at the edge of the known world. 30,000 years ago, the Ice Age tightens its grip. Human populations in Europe retreat to refugia, sheltered pockets in Iberia, Italy, and the Balkans. The Basques of the Pyrenees may descend from one of these refugial populations, carrying the highest Rh negative blood frequency on Earth. In Central Asia, populations adapt to the vast steppe. In East Asia, distinct northern and southern populations begin to diverge. 20,000 years ago, the world is at its coldest. Ice sheets cover much of North America and northern Europe. Sea levels drop dramatically, exposing land bridges. One of these, Beringia, connects Siberia to Alaska. The ancestors of Native Americans begin crossing into the New World, though exactly when remains debated. They bring with them East Asian and ancient North Eurasian ancestry, creating a population that is genetically unique to the Americas. 12,000 years ago, the Ice Age ends. Sea levels rise. Tasmania separates from Australia. New Guinea separates from Australia. Britain separates from continental Europe. The world map begins to look familiar. And then something happens that changes the DNA of humanity more than any event since the out of Africa migration. The Neolithic revolution, farming. Starting roughly 10,000 years ago, in at least two independent locations, the Fertile Crescent and the Zagros Mountains, humans begin domesticating plants and animals. Anatolian farmers in what is now Turkey develop wheat and barley agriculture and begin expanding westward into Europe, bringing their DNA with them. Within a few thousand years, they replace or absorb the European hunter-gatherer populations, transforming the genetic landscape of the continent. Simultaneously, Zagros farmers from the Iranian plateau expand eastward into South Asia, mixing with indigenous hunter-gatherers to create the ancestral population of modern Indians. In China, rice is domesticated in the Yangtze Valley and millet in the Yellow River Valley, creating two separate farming populations that will eventually merge. In Africa, agriculture develops independently in several regions. The farming revolution does not just change how people eat, it changes who they are, genetically. Farmers have more children than hunter-gatherers, their populations grow, they expand into new territory, and they bring their DNA with them, replacing or overwhelming the people who were there before. 5,000 years ago, another seismic event. The Yamnaya, pastoral nomads from the Pontic-Caspian steppe north of the Black Sea, begin expanding in all directions. They bring horses, wheeled vehicles, and Indo-European languages. They sweep into Europe, where they mix with the Neolithic farmers to create the ancestral population of modern Europeans. They sweep into Central Asia and eventually into Iran and India, where they mix with Zagros-descended populations to create the ancestral North Indians. The Yamnaya migration is one of the largest population turnovers in human history. It is the reason Hindi, English, Persian, and Greek are all related languages. 4,000 years ago, the Austronesian expansion begins in Taiwan. Seafarers spread south through the Philippines, Indonesia, and eventually across the entire Pacific Ocean. They reach Madagascar off the coast of Africa. They reach Easter Island in the eastern Pacific. They reach New Zealand in the south. It is the greatest maritime expansion in human history, and it leaves a genetic signature across half the planet. 3,500 years ago in India, a massive demographic shift occurs. Populations that had been freely mixing for millennia suddenly begin practicing endogamy, marrying within their own communities. The genetic diversity created by the mixing of hunters, farmers, and steppe migrants is frozen in place. Castes, tribes, and linguistic groups become genetic islands. This shift creates the extraordinary internal diversity of modern India, where groups within the same country can be as different as Europeans from East Asians. 2,000 years ago, the empires take over. Rome connects the Mediterranean. The Han Dynasty unifies China. The Silk Road links east and west. Genes flow along trade routes, military campaigns, and forced migrations. The genetic map of Eurasia becomes increasingly complex, with layer upon layer of admixture accumulating in every region. 1,000 years ago, the Turkic and Mongol expansions reshape Central Asia. The Seljuk Turks enter Anatolia. Genghis Khan builds the largest contiguous land empire in history. Turkic languages spread from Siberia to the Mediterranean, carried by nomads whose DNA would mix with every population they encountered. The genetic signal from southern Siberia and Mongolia is still detectable in Turkic-speaking populations from the Yakuts to the Turks of Istanbul. 500 years ago, the European age of exploration begins. Columbus reaches the Americas. The Spanish colonize the Philippines. The Portuguese establish trading posts across Africa, Asia, and South America. The Atlantic slave trade forcibly moves millions of Africans to the Americas. The Columbian exchange is not just an exchange of crops and diseases. It is an exchange of DNA, the largest forced genetic mixing event in human history. And today, 7 continents, 8 billion people. Every single one carrying a genetic record of every migration, every interbreeding event, every farming expansion, every empire, and every conquest that brought their ancestors to where they are now. Your DNA is not one story. It is 1,000 stories stacked on top of each other. African at the foundation, Neanderthal woven through the middle, farmer layers from the Neolithic, steppe ancestry from the Bronze Age, and the specific unique combination of all these threads that makes you who you are. 300,000 years of history, written in 3 billion base pairs of code, inside every cell of every person watching this. The archive never closes. If this is the kind of story that makes you see the world differently, subscribe to DNA Archives and turn on notifications. Every population has a chapter in this story, and we are telling all of them.